There's so many things clamoring for your attention. There's so many people that need you. There are so many things and tasks on your to-do list. How are you going to fit it all in? Well, you're in the right place, because the most important thing is that your job is not to be busy. Your job is to be productive. My name is John Eades, and why should you be thinking about time management or learning from me as it relates to how to best use your time? I have a unique perspective. As someone with ADHD, time management and staying focused has been a challenge for as long as I can remember, which is why one of the reasons I've poured so much time, energy, and effort to figuring out how to do it better. Time management is one of the top 3 issues facing leaders today. So I'm here to share with you some strategies and some tools to help you be more effective at your time management. There were 2 woodsmen that lived on opposite mountains. And in between these 2 mountains was a river, and it was their only source of water. So every day these 2 woodsmen would walk down from their house to the river to collect water. And they would come down about the same time, and so the 2 became friends. And for years this went on, until one day one of the men didn't show up. And his friend got a little concerned. He said maybe he's sick today, maybe something's wrong. So he went back home. The next day he comes down, his friend's not there again. And this goes on for 2 weeks. The one woodsman really became concerned. And so one day he decided to cross the river and go check on his friend. And he crosses the river and he goes up the mountain. And instead of something bad happen, he sees his friend sitting right outside of his house. He said, "Where have you been? It's been 2 weeks since you've been to the river." And the man sitting in a rocking chair says, "Oh, well, let me show you something." And they walk around his house and he sees a well. And the one woodsman looks down in this well, and it's a deep, dark well. And he says, "I bet you finished this 2 weeks ago." The other woodsman says, "You would be right. Every single day after I would go down to the river to get water, I would work on digging my well. And for years, every single day, I was consistent. And then 2 weeks ago, I struck gold and water came up. And now I have more time to do things like reading a book and casually spending time on my porch." Now, the moral of this story is simple. Leaders who utilize their time and attention properly create more time tomorrow. See, the one woodsman had the exact same amount of time as his friend, but instead of getting water and coming back and relaxing, he used the time that he had properly and consistently to create more time tomorrow. You have the same amount of time as I do. We can't magically add more hours to a day, but what we can do is work on the right things to create more time tomorrow. Now, in our research over the last 11 years working with organizations and teams, an interesting pattern emerged. What we found is that some of the highest performing teams, all of them kind of looked a little bit like this. They were made up of 15% low performers, 70% medium performers, and 15% high performers. And what we found in our research was that maybe every team wasn't built exactly like 15, 70, 15. Some were more like 10, 60, 30. But every single team and organization had a makeup of high, medium, and low performers. So what we decided to do was to begin to study what the high performers were doing that the medium and low performers weren't doing. And some interesting patterns emerged. What we found was that high performers shared a common set of skills. Those skills being work ethic, like a relentless work ethic that gets after it every single day. Their time management skills were excellent. They were coachable, and they had advanced technical skills. The one common theme out of these 4 skills was time management. High performers knew how to use their time, energy, and attention at a higher level than others. Again, they didn't make more time. They didn't add more hours to their day. They got more done with the hours that they did have. So let's get on the same page about what it means to have good time management. What is time management? Time management is the practice of organizing and planning how to divide your time between specific activities or tasks. The practice of organizing and planning how to divide your time between specific activities or tasks. It's not rocket science, but just because it's not rocket science doesn't mean it's easy. The secret isn't knowing what time management is. The secret is to enhance your time. So it's not about time management, it's about time enhancement. How can you enhance your time to accomplish more and be more productive? And what we found is a pretty consistent pattern has emerged in order to enhance your time. And it's what we call the time enhancing formula. You're bought into this idea that I don't need to manage my time. I need to enhance my time. And the first element of the time enhancing formula is to know your style, and specifically your calendar style. In 2009, Paul Graham wrote an essay about the difference of a maker versus a manager. And if you're not familiar with Paul Graham's work, no big deal, I'm going to catch you up. So what Paul Graham figured out is that everybody should know whether they're a manager or a maker. Here's an example of a maker's calendar. Their schedule needs large, uninterrupted blocks of time. Their tasks, they need deep concentration. They're creative and they're abstract. And their productivity is measured on the quality of their output. So if you're an individual contributor or you're even a content producer, you're going to be in the maker category, measured very much by your productivity on the quality of your output. And the best way to do that is to have large, uninterrupted blocks of time in your calendar where you stay focused. But not everybody's a maker, and Paul Graham understood that. He also says you could also have a manager schedule. The manager schedule has tiny blocks broken up throughout their day. Their schedule is back to back to back to back, a lot of meeting. Their tasks, they're about coordinating, communication with others, and making decisions. And their productivity, it's measured on how well their team performs, how effective they are at handling many things all at one time. Now this could be a manager. If you have a title of manager or supervisor or executive, more than likely your schedule is going to look more like a manager schedule than a maker schedule. But here's what's updated since Paul Graham wrote about the manager versus maker schedule. There's also a third style now, and it's what I call the creative leader. And a creative leader has tiny blocks, but they also need big blocks of time in their calendar. They have to have deep concentration, but they also have to make a lot of decisions because people report to them or they lead a team. And their productivity, it's measured by the quality of their own output, and it needs a team to achieve its goals. If you're going to enhance your time and use the time enhancing formula, it starts with understanding your calendar style. So right now, what I want you to do is to determine in your current role or in your current position, are you more of a maker? Are you have more of a manager style? Or are you more of a creative leader? You're a player and coach. Now this is important because it should determine what your calendar looks like. Now that we know your calendar style, it's time that we move into the second element of the time enhancing formula, and that is your goals. What are the desired outcomes that you're looking to achieve with the time that you have? I always like to think of goals this way. Some people say, I'm not goal driven. Others say they are. What's most important? Well, think of it a little bit like a dartboard. If you've ever played darts, if you just throw the dart at a dartboard, you will likely hit it. Will you hit what you're aiming at? Like a bullseye? Probably not. But when you aim and you focus on something and then you throw, you're much more likely to hit it. Research suggests that you are 42% more likely to achieve your goals simply by writing them down. Now let's take a look at the opposite side of this. If you're just working and you're doing task after task after task and you're switching between tasks, but you don't know where you're going, it would be a little bit like a marathon runner running a marathon race, not on a course. How do they know when to stop? How do they know where to stop at 26.2 miles? They're just running. They're not running with any intentionality or to achieve something. If you're going to enhance your time, we have to know what we're working to achieve. Jim Rohn said it so well. He said, I want you to set the kind of goals that will make something out of you to achieve them. So what is a goal? What is this thing that I've been talking about? A goal is simply a desired result that you envision, plan, and commit to achieving. It has a formula. It's simple. A clear objective plus a completion date. A goal is something that wouldn't otherwise happen without you doing something. But we've got to know what it is. We've got to put some definition around what you're working to achieve. Because if we don't know what you're working to achieve, if you don't know what the desired result is that you're trying, the outcome that you're trying to deliver, I don't know how you can enhance your time. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to define a goal. What is something that you really care about achieving? And I want it to fall into the formula of clear objective plus completion date. Yes, I want you to consider both the why that you want to do it and the way or the how you're going to do it. But an example of this would be, I want to complete a manuscript of a book by the end of the year. It's a clear objective plus a completion date. If I don't have that goal set of complete a manuscript by the end of the year, how can I ensure that I use my time effectively? I can't. I'm probably going to push it out because it's not the highest priority on my list. So the question I have for you is, what goal, clear objective plus completion date, do you care about achieving? Now, typically at this point, I get asked a pretty similar question. Can I have more than one goal? Of course you can. There is nothing wrong with having more than one goal. There's more than 1 hour in a day. You can divide up your time to enhance it, to work on the achievement of various goals. But without any goals, that's when we get in trouble. So now take time right now in this course and write down at least one goal that has a clear objective plus a completion date. That if I were sitting next to you right now, I would be able to say, he or she achieved that or they didn't. That's the kind of clarity that I'm looking for in the second step of the time enhancing formula. What is a clear objective plus a completion date? Now that we have our style, knowing what our calendar needs to look like, and we have goal or goals, depending on what you have going on in your life right now, now we get to move to the third element of the time enhancing formula, and that is focus. Getting locked in on the daily prioritization. Because Larry Winget said this, he said, it's not that we don't have time, it's that we don't have time for the things that are really important. There's always enough time to do what's really important, but we get caught doing things that aren't important. Larry Winget is right. It really comes down to focus. And in workshops, I like to teach it this way. It's pretty simple. Success isn't about getting more things done. It's about doing more worthwhile things. It is impossible to do more worthwhile things if we don't know what we need to focus on. You will default to what's easy or what's comfortable. You are human. But what we need to do is reject comfort and embrace things that are uncomfortable, the things that are more important than another. And that's exactly what a priority is. So we have this tool called the GPT system. You've defined the goal already. Now it's time that we break that goal down into priorities. That if you focus in these 3 areas over the next 60 days, you will make a lot of progress. Because all big change starts small. We've got to shrink the change. We've got to shrink the things that we want to accomplish into smaller buckets. Now here's where you get to use your uniqueness, your creativity. Whatever goal that you've set out for yourself, whether it's professional or personal or whatever the goal is, you get to shrink it into 3 priorities. Now let's use a personal goal as an example. If I had a goal of losing 10 pounds by the end of the year, I would then need to define my top 3 priorities that I need to be focused on in order to make that happen. So in this case, I would prioritize exercise, I would prioritize education, and I would prioritize diet or food. Those would be my 3 priorities. If I had a work goal, like finishing a manuscript by the end of the year, my priorities need to be research, writing. Those are 2 good priorities right there. The things that then I need to do every single day should fall into research or writing. Hopefully you're starting to get the picture. If you're going to stay focused and work on more worthwhile things, we've got to know what areas of priority we need to lean into. And there's a couple ways we get to do this. The first is, of course, just simply defining the 3 priorities. Now, I know it's not always that simple, and you have various things going on at work where this could be challenging. At a minimum, we must define daily non-negotiables. These are your daily big 3. The 3 things that come hell or high water, you are going to get accomplished today that are in alignment with your priorities. If we end up working on things that aren't in alignment with our priorities, we're working on the wrong things. So you have 2 ways to ensure you're focused and you're prioritizing daily. The first is to simply write out your 3 priorities based on the goal that you've previously defined. The second way is to write down your daily 3 non-negotiables that the night before, or before you start work, or before you start a task, you've written out what your top 3 non-negotiables are that day. That alone will have you focus daily on the right things, and you're locked in on your priorities. Now we have a chance to really enhance our time versus manage our time.